What's going on, guys? Back on the New England Shakeup, episode 7. Alex and Cam back once again. Today's episode, we're going to deep dive back into title contenders. Now, there are some pretenders and there are contenders, and Cam and I are really going to deep dive into it. Cam, what is going on, man?
Not much. How you doing?
Hanging in there, hanging in there. So we are back, episode 7, deep diving into title contenders or pretenders. Yeah. Um, I guess first off, Cam, I guess let's just jump into the week. How was your week, man?
It's been pretty good. I'm trying to switch my days off just to make some time for myself. You know how it is.
Yeah. Busy world in today's life that everybody lives in now. Cam and I do have some pretty big news that is coming to New England Shakeup. Guys, we are trying to get to Pittsburgh. Cam and I recently over the weekend have heard news from Trey Norwood's agent. So, with that said, we can't really speak on what is coming, but we can say that in the next few months, stuff is going to pick up rapidly and quickly, to say the least. Cam and I, we've been boys for years, and we're really just trying to build this podcast into something that New England has. New England's not really a place where, a lot of people visit to, and we want to put New England on the map. Not just Maine, not just New Hampshire, where Cam is, but also for Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut also. And also Vermont. Can't forget about Vermont. Even though they're all the way in bumfuck nowhere, we can't forget about them, right, Cam?
Yeah, we can't forget about him.
Never, never. So, Cam, I guess like the first thing I'll ask you really is, touching back on our last episode of Face of the NBA. Your list obviously was quite well as soon as mine was. But I guess like my first question to you is like, who do you see as a pretender now in today's NBA?
Oh, a pretender in today's NBA. I think there's a couple different teams I could really pick for this, but I'd have to go with. I don't know. I feel like the Suns. A lot of people are hyping them up to be something that is going to be tough to beat. But if the NBA were to end today and the Clippers were to play the Suns, for instance, I don't know how much the Suns would like that matchup.
Yeah, that would be a killer matchup, honestly. I mean, Durant and Paul George against, or not Durant and Paul George, mind you, but you know what I'm talking about. Durant
Yeah, I
versus
mean, the
Paul
winner of that
George.
matchup, honestly, I could see going all the way at that point.
Exactly, dude. And the thing is with the West is like, there's probably Cam, what, maybe six pretenders in the Western Conference, maybe even two real contenders in the Western Conference. Real
Yeah, I
contenders,
see
though.
3 or 4 real contenders, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we look at it and we always say, like the first four seeds usually are the team that, will make a splash in the playoffs or something along that nature. But, we've also seen, like an eight-seeded Miami team of last year get all the way to the finals. So we can't really sit here and say, that the number one or the number two or the number four seed is really going to get to the finals because we just don't know in today's age. Yeah.
Exactly. Even the game last night, not to bring up the Spurs and the Thunder, but the Spurs beat the Thunder and they're what, the 14th or 15th seed? I don't remember, but the Spurs are having a disaster year. And the Thunder are second seed, and I think they beat them both times they played. Not to say that the Spurs would beat them in a 7 game series or anything like that, because that would be outlandish of a
Yeah.
take. But
Yeah.
any
Um,
team can catch any team in a night, so some
yeah,
of
but
these teams have to be
I
ready
think
to
it's
play
also
4 7 games.
yeah, and I think it's also cool, Cam, that teams such as like, the Spurs, the Pistons, the Wizards, when they do get a win like that against a team like that, I hate to
Oh
put
yeah,
it into terms like this, but that's that team's Super Bowl. And the reason why I say it like that is because, the Spurs are rebuilding, the Wizards are rebuilding, the Pistons are now in a position that they have to rebuild. Um, which I guess in a sense, it really takes away from a team like the Thunder when they do lose to a team like that because it says, what really are you? Like, are you a consistent team that's going to be able to withstand a 7 game series? Like people think like it's so cool too that you brought up the Thunder because I could really go on about the Thunder for like 20 minutes, but I'm not going to go that long. But the Thunder to me remind me a lot of the 2012 Celtics. And the reason why I say that, and not just like it's not an age thing that it reminds me of them, it's in their style of play. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander reminds me a lot of Rajon Rondo from a passing standpoint. The reason
Oh,
being is
definitely.
because Shea is a mid-range shot maker, and he's also a floater specialist. So, and what was Rondo known for? His passing ability. And I think if like Shea Gilgeous like really opens that part of his game up completely, because I'm not saying that he's a
Yeah.
selfish player, but he can be at times. That's why he's averaging almost 30 a game.
Yeah, honestly, he's to me, he's like a mix of DeRozan and Rondo if I had to put two players to how he plays, like
Right,
because he gets to a
exactly.
spot like DeRozan and can slash, and he
Right.
also looks for his teammates to set up.
Yeah, and I think that too, like with the Thunder especially, like they're so young, dude. Like they're a young team. Like don't get me wrong, like yeah, you might have one or two people that have been in the league for 5, 6 years, but like dude, they have the youngest team in the NBA. I'm pretty sure. If it's not the
Yeah, that's a big
Spurs,
reason. Oh, you keep
yeah,
him
if
going.
it's not the Spurs at this point in time, it's got to be the Thunder. And if they're a young team, I mean, we've seen it before. When a young team has a great, regular season, I mean, we saw it with Cleveland last year. They had a great regular season, right? Yeah, they didn't get the seeding that they wanted, but they had a tremendous regular season. And where did it end? First round of the playoffs. So, you kind of have to look at the Thunder as the Cavs from last year. Like, they haven't played in a playoff series yet. That team hasn't played in a 7 game grueling series. Let's say this, Cam. If the Thunder were to play, you know, let's say, for example, Lakers win the play in. Let's say the Thunder are the second seed. If they got to play LeBron and Anthony Davis in the first round, if I'm a betting man, I'm not betting against LeBron in that series. Because the thing about LeBron is he's going to know all of their tendencies better than even they know them.
Yeah,
And
he's going to be calling out their plays on defense, and the
exactly,
Shea's going to be looking around like, what's going on?
exactly. And it's so cool, especially when LeBron does that in the playoffs, because it really shows how much his IQ is above a lot of these players in the league. Um,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But one of my pretenders, I guess, is the Thunder because I can't really see them winning a 7 game series. Me personally, I can't. If they had to go up against a Luca and the Mavs, Kyrie led Mavs team, right? I
Hmm.
don't pick them against them in a 7 game series. If they had to play the Clippers, if the Clippers somehow collapse without Russell Westbrook after his broken left hand, he'll be out for 4 weeks, by the way. Um, or if they had to play a team even like Sacramento,
Yeah, I
Sacramento,
was
if
about
you
to say the way it ends right now is the Thunder playing the Kings, which that's a matchup I'd love, just like the Clippers Suns from before. But yeah, the Thunder, they're a really young team, and I mean the Kings are pretty young too. But I don't know, I just see De'Aaron Fox willing his team past Shea, even though I said Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is somebody who I think is going to be the face of the NBA. But I just don't think that team has enough like experience, like you were saying, to make a deep run. Maybe they get past one round, but I don't think they're
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 made for
gonna go three
titles yet.
series. Like I don't think Chet's gonna last in the playoffs with consistent just like beating. Yeah, if they come up against the Kings or even the Pelicans, like I don't know how they've been looking or Zion's been playing or if he's healthy, but I think Zion's gonna put the hurt on Chet. I
Yeah,
wouldn't want to
that's
play Zion for a 7 game series if I was Chet.
yeah, and that's the other thing, Cam, that's really a question mark that I have with that team is Chet, my guy. I've seen you play, dude. I went and watched you play in college. Um, you got to put some muscle on, dude. Like
Yeah,
you're 7 foot, you're 7 feet tall. If you got to play Jonas Valanciunas in the first round, I'm letting you know you ain't getting over 7 rebounds. Valanciunas ain't letting that happen. If you got to play Sabonis ain't letting that shit happen. And especially the only chance that the Thunder have with Chet having a somewhat decent performance is if they play the Mavs with Derek Lively at center. That's the only way that Chet has a big series in any of these playoff series that are to come. Chet has to also take control. Like, if Shea Gilgis were to get hurt, right? tweak an ankle for a game,
Oh
say
yeah,
he's
it'd be
out for a
so
game.
over.
It's like, where do they go? Like, yeah, you do have Cason Wallace coming off the bench. Don't get me wrong, he's a tremendous player, but he's not Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And that's the thing that I think that the Thunder are going to learn in the playoffs this year is that, yeah, you can have a superstar. Yeah, you might be able to have somewhat of a co-superstar in Chet, but you also need somebody, a third scorer, who's going to be able to produce his own points in the playoffs. Because when those players are on the bench, people still need to score. And Jalen Williams, yes, he's stepped up to a degree this year, but who's saying that that's going to last long term? You know what I mean? You can't ever say with a player that comes out for their first 2 years, yes, that's going to be what's going to withstand for the rest of their career because we've seen what happens. Prime example of it is Greg Oden. Greg Oden, decent rookie year. What happened after that? Hurt, injuries, couldn't stay healthy. So, looking back on my pretender, I think the Thunder have a big chance to go down in the first round because of how stacked the West is, and also because of the players that are at the bottom of those seedings right now and their playoff experience. If the Thunder have to play the Warriors, or the Lakers, or the Pelicans, or the Mavs, or even the Suns, it's wraps. The Thunder will go home in the first round. They will have decent draft picks because they've done a decent job trading for them. But I think that the Thunder get eliminated in the first round. That's my hot take for a pretender. Now, Cam, I want to get a list of three, maybe even four that you have. Contenders that you have coming out of the East or the Western Conference.
Cool. So I think I'm going to start in the West, and I'll let you take the next one for the East. But I'd have to say the Clippers. I mean, even if Russell Westbrook's out for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, as long as he's back for the second round, I think they're good. I think the way they've just been managing the minutes has been a lot better. Like, you don't see Kawhi and Paul George hurt as much. I mean, Russell Westbrook broke his hand, but that's just something that's going to happen. And adding Harden was something I really thought was going to blow up in their face. I didn't think he was going to add what he's been adding to their team. Because I'm somebody, there's only one basketball. Like, having played basketball, you just see those teams where you have too many star players to even get the ball around. But yeah, Harden's been making them seem like a real contender, but we'll see come playoffs if he keeps that same momentum.
Yeah, and I could definitely see the Clippers making some noise in the West. It's just a question of if because Ty Lue's proven he can win, you know. But I also want people to understand this too. Tyronn Lue won a championship with LeBron James, probably the second greatest player to ever touch the hardwood. People got to understand Ty Lue should have already won a championship with the Clippers. He should have. Obviously, injuries happen, and that's not his fault. But if the Clippers are fully healthy, which, if Westbrook gets his hand right, there should be no excuse this year. And if they don't win, that would stink. My Eastern Conference contender, though, that I have as a little bit of a sleeper, Indiana Pacers. Reason why I say this is because Rick Carlisle's already done this before. Rick Carlisle's made a trade at the deadline and went and got a weapon, and it paid off. You remember?
Do you see them moving up some seeds?
I I don't see them moving up any seeds. This is what I see happening. I see Milwaukee playing Indiana in the first round. Okay, and I think that Milwaukee right now is so inconsistent in how they play from night to night that if you go 7 games and you go to Milwaukee and they can't defend, dude. That's the thing with Milwaukee. They have the 29th ranked out of 30 NBA teams in defense. They can't
With
defend.
Giannis too, which is crazy. I love
Exactly.
that.
With Giannis and Brook Lopez, you have two 7-footers at the rim, and you're still allowing almost 74 points a game in the paint, which is ridiculous. The fact that that's happening along with the fact that you have two 7-footers, along with that you have a 6'9" Chris Middleton, along with a Malik Beasley who's a great defender, and along with a Dame Lillard who's not a so it all Patrick Beverly type of defender, but Dame's no scrub though. He's not gonna back down. The fact that they're 29th tells you all you need to know. If Tyrese Halliburton and that whole team gets hot, their shooters get hot, Milwaukee's not going to be able to recover. And especially with Middleton always missing games, never knowing when he's going to play, you can't bank on them getting past Indiana. You can't even bank on them getting past the first round, for that matter. I love Giannis. I love what they do. I love Dame. I've loved Dame as a player since he came into the league when he hit the shot on the Rockets. Don't get me wrong, I love these players. Me personally, I take it as a more of a, you know, say do approach where if you say I want a player, I want him to play with me, you got to back it up. And with Giannis, you traded Drew Holiday, bro. You won a championship with Drew Holiday. And look what Drew Holiday is doing in Boston right now. And Giannis thought, oh, yeah, I can't win with that. But what Giannis also forgot is how much of a liability that everyone else on his team is now because Drew's not there. Drew was defending their best perimeter player. So when you take that away and you tell Chris Middleton, hey, you got to go guard DeMar. Hey, you got to go guard Lauri Markkanen. Hey, you got to go guard Paul George tonight. Chris Middleton ain't like that defensively. And the fact that Doc Rivers now coming into his own as the coach there, before the All-Star break, dude, they were 3-7 in 10 games with him as the coach. They've won a few games since then, but they're not a totality of somebody that is going to jump out at you. Giannis's time in Milwaukee is only going to go so far as A, if they're willing to go into the luxury tax, and B, if Giannis is willing to take a pay cut to go and get a signified star. Another one, such as, I don't know who that may be.
Do you think he would take a pay cut, though, honestly?
For me, if I'm Giannis and, I'm being compared to fucking Shaq when it comes to dominance of playing basketball, I would do whatever it is to win a ring. If that's taking a $8 million pay cut to make sure that, my bench is some of the best bench players in the league, I would do that. I just don't know why Giannis hasn't came to Milwaukee and said, "Hey, I don't want to make that much money." I don't understand these players nowadays. They whine, they complain and they bitch that they don't win championships, but like they never take the Tom Brady approach to anything. You
Yeah,
know,
or the Tim Duncan approach, exactly. Not
right,
to interrupt you, but yeah, the whole thing of just taking less money to get another player. They're
right.
gonna complain and cry that they don't have enough help, but they're making what, 30 or 40% of the team's money?
Yeah, exactly. Like
Like
this
you're
is the
making a
thing.
super max contract. Like,
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like the prime example of that fucking take is LeBron James. Like LeBron's about to get like 60 million a year from LA next year. If
yeah,
he takes that money, he's an idiot. Because well, B, I mean, let's not say he's an idiot because like anybody would sign that dotted line.
no,
But
yeah, yeah.
but like he's in a
From a winning
stratus
perspective, yes,
yeah,
yeah,
he's in a stratosphere by himself though. And you know, they're not going to be able to pay anyone else after that. He's going to retire a Laker. That's how it's going to go down. And um, if I'm Giannis, I take a pay cut. If I'm Indiana, I go full fledged to try to get as much team chemistry as I can get to go into the playoffs. You have Siakam, you have Miles Turner, you have Halliburton. In my opinion, that's enough to get to the second round. I think they're going to beat Milwaukee. That's my first contender. Cam, who's your second contender?
I know this is a no-brainer with how they've been playing, but my second contender is the Celtics. I mean, I feel like I don't even need to say anything about it, but of course, we have to go into it. But
Yeah.
just the way they've been playing, the additions they've made. I mean, Drew Holiday and Porzingis were definitely amazing. Porzingis, I mean, I didn't think he was going to be doing as well as he is and staying as healthy as he's been. I thought he'd be hurt a lot more, and I'm just impressed with the Celtics in general. That
Yeah.
Derek White trade,
Hmm.
looking back on it, yeah,
Yeah, the
just
Derek White trade, looking back on it, that was a steal. Yeah, that's a steal for them. Um, the Celtics are a cheat code, bro. They they like I said on the last episode, they literally have five players averaging over 12 points per game. Like the last time that that happened, I was reading the last time that that happened is the 2004 or 2013 Indiana Pacers. That was the last time that that happened. That was with George Hill and Lance Stevenson, Paul George, David West,
yeah, and
and Roy
Hibbert,
Hibbert.
yeah.
Yep. Which don't get me wrong, that was a very, very, very good team, but they didn't end up winning the championship. What's different about the Celtics is the Pacers that year, that was I think their second time running into LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals. That was also when Paul George was a baby. The difference between Paul George and Jason Tatum is Jason Tatum has already been to a finals. That's the difference. Jason
Yep.
Tatum already has the experience. He knows what not to do. Celtics are winning the championship this year. I think me and you both can agree on that. If they stay healthy, if no injuries happen, they're going to win the championship. Jason
Also, they
Tatum,
have enough money and a roster spot still. They could go for somebody like a Blake Griffin because a lot of the guys have been reaching out to him.
yeah,
But just going back to the Derek White trade really quick, it was Romeo Langford, Josh Richardson, a first round pick, and a swap pick for Derek White. And if you look back on that, like for the Spurs, they don't have Langford or Josh Richardson that I can remember at least. The pick they used wasn't anyone that's playing now, and then it's a pick swap. So they basically, for all they have from that trade, is a pick swap for Derek White, and Derek White's a top 25 player in my opinion right now.
yeah. He's playing really well right now. He's shooting the three really well. He's also getting his teammates involved. And the thing that's so cool to see, and I talk to my wife about this all the time because she's a diehard Celtics fan. Um, but doesn't it seem a little weird that it kind of feels like the Celtics aren't missing Marcus Smart? Like it kind of it kind of feels weird. Like you remember
Feels
everybody,
weird, but I feel like Drew Holiday is that exact same type of player. I mean, everybody, Marcus Smart's my favorite player in the Celtics. I was devastated when we got rid of him, but Drew Holiday's just one of those guys that's, I feel like a more refined Marcus Smart, not to hit a man while he's down, because Marcus Smart's still sad about not being on the Celtics, but Drew Holiday's just like more consistent on offense and a
yeah,
little bit better at shooting, I feel like.
yeah, and the
It's
thing
all the
that
great parts of Smart's game.
Oh, 100%. And I think that the problem that Brad had with Marcus was the offensive inconsistency. Like last Eastern Conference Finals, like nobody can sit here and tell me that Marcus didn't ball the fuck out because he did. But the problem that I had with the way in which he did play was he almost seemed like he wanted to force plays that weren't supposed to be. And when I say that, I mean like Marcus Smart was third in the league last year for turnover ratio, which means that if he turns the ball over four times in one game, then that's pretty bad. And he was ranked third last, I believe, in turnover ratio, which means that he's turning the ball over way too much. And now, when I pull up the stats now and look at Drew Holiday is 31st in turnover ratio. So you look at the math there. There is 412 players active in the NBA right now, and so Drew Holiday ranks 31st out of 412, and Marcus Smart last year ranked 397th out of 401. So practically, you know, not very good. Um, but it just feels weird though. It still feels a little bit weird to me
Oh
But
yeah,
it
no,
just
it's
seems like they're not
yeah.
missing him, and it seems like that was what we always needed to do. I mean, do I sound far fetched saying that we always needed a Drew Holiday, or uh,
No, I mean I think it's just the fans. It's like the Isaiah Thomas for Kyrie trade. It's the fans still have their type of way to feel about it because that's their like fan favorite. But yeah, sometimes the fan favorite has to go to keep pushing the show on.
right? Yeah. So the Celtics definitely are a juggernaut to say the least. Uh, my my second contender, Cam. Going out on a limb here. I think the you're gonna hate me for saying this one. That's the thing, because you know where I'm from, so you're gonna be like, "Whoa, he's rooting for that kind of team." I think the New York Knicks are gonna make some noise this year, and the only reason why I think that, and I hate to say it, but I think they're gonna make some noise. And the thing that's so weird about that team is nothing jumps off the page for you except for Brunson. You know, Julius Randle's been hurt for a while now. So you can't really you know, bank on him like playing a very good playoff series. But like at the same time, if all he's doing is just working on conditioning, which is the article that I'm reading right now, is he's just working on conditioning right now, then he's going to be ready for those, 5, 6, 7 game series in the playoffs. I think personally, the New York Knicks are going to get matched with a team such as, like a Miami. And I just think this year Miami, I think this year Butler runs out of gas in the first round. I think they get swept. I think Miami gets swept this year in the playoffs by New York because I
Yeah, so
think
I think it all depends on Brunson. I
yeah,
mean, he's definitely, I mean, even on the Mavericks, when they didn't want to pay him and brought in Kyrie, I was so shocked that they were willing to part ways with him. But I mean, Mark Cuban's a billionaire for a reason. He definitely thought something we didn't, or didn't think he was worth the money. Which, if he didn't think he was worth the money, that's kind of crazy to me because Brunson's
balling
in
out.
the face of New York, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, Randall was until he got hurt. They've traded for OG and OB, but I don't know. It all depends on Brunson. If
Yeah,
he's
and
feeling like bringing them to the finals, I could see them going. Winning it, probably not, but I could see them maybe making it if Brunson keeps going the way he is.
yeah, and then the other thing too that I think is just the determining factor that I why I picked New York is Tom Thibodeau, in my opinion, is one of the best defensive coaches in the league, and I'll always believe that because I saw a young Derrick Rose go to the Eastern Conference Finals when he had no being so of going there. He was an MVP, don't get me wrong, like he was balling out, but let's be real, that team was not supposed to get to the Eastern Conference Finals that year against LeBron. They weren't. And when they did, it was crazy because it's like, so cool to see them in 2011 battling LeBron, going toe to toe. But it's like, now I sit back, I look at it, and I'm like, yo, like if you take Derrick Rose off that team, bro, that team might not even be a fucking playoff team, Cam. You think about it. They had Luol Deng in 2014, because he was nursing I forget exactly what ligament he tore in his knee, but he tore a ligament in his knee in 2011, and I remember he was hurt because Keith Bogans got the start in that series and played against LeBron. I remember LeBron had kind of like a chase down block on the side on the baseline of uh of Keith Bogans, but Thibodeau basically morphed that team into just defensively sound. That was the reason why they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. I could
Yeah,
see
definitely.
I could see New York. I could see New York making some noise though. I think it's better for the NBA when the Knicks are better though. I think it's better for basketball. I think it's better for just publicity, standards. Um, but New York's my second contender. Cam, who's your third contender?
I mean, I think my third contender's got to be the Kings. Just, I mean, I think De'Aaron Fox is just one of those players that not sure if we had talked about him at all the last episode, but he's just somebody that I think's definitely going to be, he's just going to continue to like grow as a player. He's just been very good the last couple of years, even when he was first drafted. I think a lot of people had either doubts or like opinions on how he was going to play or just yeah, I think he's proved a lot of people wrong. I think like a lot of NBA players their first year don't necessarily do
Jump off
well.
the tape. Exactly.
And yeah, he only had 11 points his rookie year, which isn't bad. Plenty of NBA players like Stockton had way worse than that and then average that every year. But I think it all depends on really De'Aaron Fox and how far he wants to bring them. Like the same thing with Brunson. They're kind of the faces of their teams, so however far they're going to go. And if one of them gets hurt, I don't see the Knicks or the Kings going far if their star boys get hurt.
Yeah. Swipe is a very, very methodical player. And I just want to say this just like straight up to anybody who's listening, but De'Aaron Fox went to where, Cam? Where'd De'Aaron Fox go to college?
Kentucky, right?
Yeah, he went to Kentucky. And the thing about Kentucky is that people, seem not to remember now. It's like Kentucky just brews fucking NBA guards. That's all they do. I mean,
Yeah.
just off the top of my head, John Wall. Trey Burke didn't go to Kentucky, but he committed there and then went to Michigan afterward. Um, Trying to think off the top of my head. Devin Booker went there. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander went there. Jamal Murray went to Kentucky. That's just, off the top of my head thinking right now. And all of those
Not sure. I think
players,
Randall did too, but yeah,
yeah,
keep going.
Julius Randle went to Kentucky. There was a ton of players. DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, Anthony Davis. I mean, there have been so many players that have gone to Kentucky. Kentucky just brews NBA talent. That's what they do. So, looking back on it now, it's like, damn, like De'Aaron Fox, yeah, he jumped off the tape, but like at the same time, it's like he's from Kentucky. Like Cal had him prepared for this shit. Which is pretty cool to see. Uh, that is an awesome contender because I could see the fucking Kings making noise, and the Kings need to be good again. The Everybody needs to go to Sacramento and go to a game and light the beam. If you've never been to a game in Sacramento, Cam, like that is one of the best things you could ever do in your life. Going to a Sacramento Kings game where they are relevant and the crowd is actually into it, one of
Oh
the
yeah,
most intriguing things you'll ever see in sports, in my opinion. My third contender though, I'm I'm gonna go out west, and I'm gonna go I'm gonna go with the champs from last year. I'm gonna go with the Denver Nuggets. And obviously, they're not having the year that they had last year, but you always have to defend Jokic in the playoffs, and you always have to game plan for him. And you always got a game plan for Aaron Gordon because Aaron Gordon is always, looping on the baseline or cutting, off of Jokic's screens, all of this crazy shit. And Jamal Murray, if he wants to in the playoffs, he showed us last year he can average about 24 in the playoffs if he wants to do it. So they've proven what they can do. So them sitting at number 4, I don't really think they give a fuck about where their seating is right now. I think they know that people got to go and play them. And the biggest, thing that people don't talk about is Denver, Colorado. I lived in Colorado, Cam, for about 2 months. And Colorado is one of the coolest places in America to live, but it's also one of the like scariest places to live because of how high up in elevation you are and how thin the air is. And when you have to travel in May in the heat in Colorado to go play in an arena that is going to be very, very, very warm, and you're still under the elevation too because you're in the Colorados, you're going to be you're going to be just not
you're gonna be thrown off. Yeah, you're gonna be
exactly.
off your game.
Yeah, and the thing is like you're not going to know where to go, where to look, and by the time you know it, there's going to be 2 minutes left in the first quarter, and you haven't even gotten a breath yet. And that's the thing that NBA players talk about a lot is how hard it is to go to Denver and play in the elevation. People forget about how good Melo was, and people forget about, how big Melo was coming out of college, and then, he got slim
Yeah,
in
or like a
'09, and
Marcus Camby too. But
people
yeah,
were
keep
like,
going.
yeah, people were like, "What happened? Like, what happened to Melo? He slimmed right out." And it's like, bro, he was in 5,000 feet elevation for 6 years before he really went out of his house, dude. He was just in the gym all day, dude. And I just think it's cool that Denver has a real chance to become back-to-back champs, but like I said to you earlier, I think the Celtics are going to be the ones that lift the Larry O'Brien, but I could see the Nuggets taking it if somehow the Celtics get injured or some injuries happen there.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I definitely like Nuggets for a contender.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
they just have a deep roster. I mean, we could go all the way into it, but
they
within
do.
their starting lineup and then their like probably four or five on the bench, there's a lot of really good players.
Yeah. Yeah, they're deep again. Christian Brown again. They're they're deep. Christian Brown coming off the bench, he's only averaging about like 7 a game. But the thing is that kid's not that kid for that team doesn't need to be a scorer. He's a very good defender. Christian Brown, if you haven't seen that kid defend, dude, he's a hell of a defender. Coming out of Kansas, dude, what a kid. What a kid. But on that note, Cam, any extra notes here on the shakeup? Any extra things you want to point out before we head out of here?
No, I think we kind of covered it all on that. I mean, anything you got for the next episode or
Yeah, so I think Cam and I are going to be deep diving. We're going to be posting this episode tomorrow, but we're going to be deep diving. Episode 8 is going to be more of like an NFL free agency, trying to see who's going to be available, who's not, type of a thing, letting you guys know who's been franchise tagged and who is not. Letting you guys know the most up-to-date knowledge of the Justin Fields situation, and also looking forward to establishing maybe where the Patriots go at number 3. There's so many different options that they could go there, and Cam and I are really going to deep dive into where they could go. But I just want to ask you a question, Cam. Do you think the Patriots have enough swag to trade up for number 1?
ooh, I'm not sure if they have enough swag to trade up for number one, but I just hope Marvin Harrison Jr. is still available.
I do too. I do too. I think that may be the pick, Cam. But on that note, it has been episode 7 here on the New England Shakeup, and Cam and I will see you guys on episode 8 to deep dive into NFL free agency, deep dive into NFL free agency players as well as if they're staying or going, and also to deep dive as opposed to where Justin Fields is going to go. All right, guys, it is episode 7 of the New England Shakeup. Cam and I are out.